The Vorta High Command laughed maniacally as an armada of kilometer-long alien dreadnoughts, each bristling with plasma cannons and kinetic projectile batteries, darkened the skies above Earth's helpless cities. Supreme Commander Xerxes Yaxar watched from the bridge of his flagship, mandibles clicking together in satisfaction as his warships blasted humanity's primitive military bases and defense networks into ruin. The invasion had been too easy, the alien insect general thought smugly. The humans were weaklings with Stone Age weapons, a fractured species with no hope against the might of the Vorta Star Dominion. Yaxar's warriors would strip Earth's resources bare, then enslave its people, or perhaps just exterminate the vermin entirely. Jeremy Freeman gaped in horror as a Vorta troop transport landed on a Manhattan street, ramps slamming down as 10-foot-tall alien super soldiers in dark exoskeletons and glowing red eyes marched out with plasma rifles at the ready. The creatures opened fire indiscriminately, blasting cars, shredding civilians, and melting a NYPD SWAT team into piles of bloody mush and steaming goo. Freeman cursed and sprinted into an alleyway. At age 35, the ex-Navy SEAL had seen his share of bloodshed in Afghanistan and elsewhere, but this was a nightmare become real. The consultant had to survive and regroup with any fellow vets or cops still standing after the onslaught. He needed... Freeman's phone buzzed. "Commander Freeman? This is Admiral Simmons. The Prometheus is prepped for immediate dust-off. Sending coordinates now. If you want any chance at taking our planet back from these alien fucks, get here ASAP, and tell no one, or the Vorta will smoke us before we even get the main engines lit. Godspeed." The soldier's jaw dropped as coordinates to a top-secret military black site in Nevada popped up. 10 minutes ago, aliens had been science fiction to him, but apparently the Navy had known and prepared for this hellish day. Freeman checked his Glock was loaded and chambered a round. Looks like he wouldn't be making his 3 p.m. security consulting gig after all. Earth's very survival was on the line now. The stealth drives of the USS Prometheus hummed almost imperceptibly as the advanced warship slipped through the gaps in the Vorta's orbital blockade. Inside the darkened bridge, the crew worked with focused intensity, monitoring the alien fleet's positions and maintaining the ship's cloak. Suddenly, a priority transmission from Earth cut through the tense silence. "This is Dr. Ethan Blackwell," the voice crackled, laced with barely controlled panic. "I've been studying the Vorta's biology and behavior, and I've uncovered a horrifying truth about their invasion." Freeman leaned forward in his seat, his heart pounding as he listened to the xenobiologist's chilling revelation. "The Vorta aren't just here for our resources. They have a primal, overriding need to propagate their species by laying eggs in the bodies of sentient beings. The warriors capturing humans by the thousands? They're all female, and they're using our people as living incubators for their offspring, placing them in stasis pods to be..." The transmission cut out abruptly, leaving a deafening silence in its wake. Freeman felt a cold sweat break out on his forehead as the implications sank in. The stakes were even higher than they had imagined. Earth wasn't just facing enslavement or extinction, it was facing a fate worse than death. Captain Sarah Thompson, her face etched with grim determination, broke the stunned silence. "We have our mission. Set course for the Vorta's main hive ship. We're going in." The crew snapped into action, their resolve hardened by the knowledge of what lay ahead. As the Prometheus approached the massive alien vessel, its scale became appallingly clear. It dwarfed even the largest human-made structures, a nightmarish amalgamation of organic and mechanical components that pulsed with malevolent energy. The crew steeled themselves for a desperate boarding action, knowing that they had to disable the ship's defenses and rescue the captured humans before it was too late. Freeman checked his weapons for the 100th time, his mind racing with the weight of his past failures and the mounting pressure of the mission. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, a nagging suspicion that they weren't getting the full picture. As he scanned the faces of his crewmates, a chilling thought took root in his mind. Could there be a traitor among them, working to sabotage their efforts from within? With tensions running high and the Vorta's defenses looming before them, the crew of the Prometheus prepared for the battle of their lives. The fate of their species hung in the balance, and failure was not an option. They had to succeed, or all of humanity would pay the price. As the USS Prometheus silently docked with the massive Vorta hive ship, an ominous sense of dread settled over the crew. Freeman, his heart pounding in his chest, double-checked his prototype plasma rifle and neuro-disruptor grenades. These weapons, specifically designed to target the Vorta's unique physiology, were their only hope against the alien menace. Lieutenant Alex "Hawk" Hawkins, Freeman's longtime friend and fellow Navy SEAL, nodded grimly as he prepared his own gear. Captain Thompson's voice crackled over the comm. "Strike team, you have a go. Infiltrate the hive ship through the maintenance airlock and gather intel on the Vorta's plans. Stay sharp and watch each other's backs. The fate of humanity rests on your shoulders." Freeman, Hawkins, and the rest of the small strike team entered the airlock, the hiss of pressurization sounding unnaturally loud in the tense silence. As the inner door slid open, they found themselves in a nightmarish labyrinth of dimly lit corridors, the walls pulsating with a sickening organic rhythm. The air was thick with the stench of decay and an unidentifiable musk that made their stomachs churn. Cautiously, the team navigated deeper into the bowels of the hive ship, their weapons at the ready. The eerie silence was broken only by the soft squelch of their boots on the fleshy floor and the occasional distant skittering sound that echoed through the corridors. Freeman's skin crawled with each step, his instincts screaming at him that they were walking into the maw of an unimaginable horror. After what felt like an eternity, they stumbled upon a vast chamber filled with thousands of stasis pods, each containing the unconscious form of a human captive. Freeman and Hawkins approached one of the pods, their eyes widening in shock as they peered through the translucent membrane. Inside, a young woman lay motionless, her skin pale and clammy. Suddenly, a Vorta warrior emerged from the shadows, its chitinous exoskeleton glistening in the dim light. The creature extracted the pod from its alcove and, with a swift, sickening motion, implanted a writhing, larval Vorta into the woman's body through her slack mouth. Freeman and Hawkins recoiled in disgust, fighting the urge to vomit as they witnessed the horrifying scene. But before they could react, a swarm of Vorta drones descended upon the strike team, their razor-sharp appendages slashing through the air and acid spraying from their mouthparts. The chamber erupted into a chaotic firefight, plasma bolts and neuro-disruptor pulses illuminating the darkness as the humans fought for their lives. In the confusion, Hawkins was separated from the rest of the team, his screams echoing through the chamber as the Vorta drones dragged him away into the depths of the hive. Freeman watched helplessly, his heart wrenching, as he saw his friend disappear into the darkness. As the remaining team members fought their way deeper into the hive, a strange sensation began to creep over them. Hallucinations danced at the edges of their vision, and disorienting whispers filled their minds. Freeman shook his head, trying to clear the cobwebs from his thoughts, but the feeling only intensified. He started to suspect that the Vorta possessed powerful psychic abilities, which they were using to manipulate and control the humans. With each passing moment, the team's mental state deteriorated further, and Freeman knew that time was running out. In a desperate gambit, he made the decision to split up the team, sending them to plant explosives at key structural points throughout the hive ship. As he set off alone to search for Hawkins and the Vorta's central control chamber, a chilling realization settled in Freeman's gut, the feeling that this was all a trap. The true nature of the Vorta's plan was far more sinister than any of them had ever imagined. As Freeman forged deeper into the writhing bowels of the Vorta hive ship, an unnatural bioluminescence pulsed from the slick, organic walls. The fetid air was thick with a miasma of death and decay. Freeman's heart pounded against his ribs as he entered a cavernous chamber. Shapes hung suspended in the murky shadows. As his eyes adjusted, his blood ran cold. Dozens of grotesque, pulsating cocoons lined the room, each containing the still form of a human victim, enmeshed in a network of fleshy tendrils. And at the center, a sight that turned Freeman's stomach, Hawkins, his friend, his brother-in-arms, trapped in the largest cocoon. Sickly green tendrils burrowed into Hawkins's skull, his eyes clouded and distant. Freeman approached cautiously, barely recognizing the man before him. Hawkins! Alex, can you hear me? Freeman's voice was hoarse, his words echoing in the cavernous space. They're inside my head, Jeremy, Hawkins replied, his voice distorted and strained. The Vorta, they're using me, using all of us, to steal our memories, our knowledge. Freeman's mind reeled as the horrifying realization sank in. The Vorta were harvesting the captive humans, plundering their minds to perfect their conquest of Earth. He reached for his plasma knife, determined to cut Hawkins free from the vile cocoon. Suddenly, a voice like grinding stones filled the chamber. I would not do that if I were you, Commander Freeman. Supreme Commander Yaksa emerged from the shadows, her chitinous exoskeleton pulsing with an otherworldly luminescence. Freeman's skull felt like it was caught in a vice, as the alien's psychic presence clawed at his mind. Your friend is part of something far greater now, Yaksa intoned, her compound eyes glittering. The Vorta do not merely wish to propagate our species. We will take your adaptability, your ingenuity, and make it our own. A new breed of Vorta will rise from the ashes of your world, an unstoppable swarm that will consume the galaxy. Freeman gritted his teeth against the psychic assault, his thoughts fracturing under the Vorta's onslaught. But even as his mind threatened to splinter, he clung to the very thing that made him human, the unbreakable bonds of love, loyalty, and courage that had carried him through the darkest of times. With a roar of defiance, Freeman pushed back against Yaksa's psychic hold, drawing strength from the memories of his fallen comrades. He would not let their sacrifices be in vain. He would not let the Vorta twist and corrupt the very essence of humanity. As if from a great distance, Hawkins' voice cut through the psychic maelstrom. Jeremy, the hive ship's reactor, if you destroy it. But Hawkins' words were lost as Yaksa redoubled her assault, her psychic scream reverberating through Freeman's skull. The world around him began to fade, his vision tunneling as the Vorta's will threatened to consume him entirely. In that moment, Jeremy Freeman faced an impossible choice. Save his friend, the man who had fought by his side through hell and back, or sacrifice everything to ensure the survival of the human race. Time seemed to slow to a crawl, the fate of Earth hanging in the balance. Freeman knew that the next few seconds would decide the future of humanity, a future that would be shaped by the choices he made here, in the heart of the Vorta's nightmarish hive. Time seemed to slow as Freeman looked into the eyes of his closest friend, seeing the unspoken plea in their depths. He knew what he had to do, even as his heart screamed in protest. With a trembling hand, he pulled the plasma knife from his belt and pressed it against the pulsating tendrils that held Hawkins captive. I'm sorry, Freeman whispered, his voice cracking with emotion. I won't let them use you like this. Hawkins managed a weak nod, a flicker of gratitude in his eyes. Do it, he rasped. Save Earth. Freeman activated the plasma knife, the searing blade slicing through the fleshy cocoon with a sickening hiss. Hawkins convulsed, a strangled cry escaping his lips as the Vorta's psychic hold on his mind shattered. Freeman caught his friend's body as it slumped forward, cradling him close for a moment, before gently lowering him to the ground. Yaksa's scream of rage echoed through the chamber, her psychic assault redoubling in intensity. Freeman staggered under the onslaught, his mind threatening to buckle under the alien's fury. But he clung to his purpose, his grief and anger fueling his resolve. Using Hawkins's final words as a guide, Freeman fought his way to the hive ship's reactor core, planting the explosive charges with near-mechanical precision. As he set the timer, he could feel the Vorta's collective consciousness pressing in on him, a suffocating weight that threatened to crush his very soul. With precious seconds ticking away, Freeman sprinted through the nightmarish corridors of the hive ship, dodging pulsating tendrils and acidic sprays. The USS Prometheus loomed ahead, its airlock a beacon of hope in the darkness. Behind him, the timer on the explosives counted down inexorably. Freeman stumbled into the airlock, his lungs burning and his mind reeling from the Vorta's psychic assault. As the outer door sealed shut, he could hear Captain Thompson's voice over the comm, strained and distant. Freeman, the Vorta, they're trying to break through our defenses. The USS Prometheus shuddered as it detached from the hive ship, its engines straining to put distance between them and the impending destruction. Freeman braced himself against the bulkhead, his heart pounding in his chest as the seconds ticked away. And then the world erupted in a blinding flash of light. The hive ship disintegrated, consumed by a chain reaction that ripped through its twisted organic structure. The USS Prometheus bucked and heaved, its hull groaning under the strain of the shockwave. As the glare faded, Freeman stared out the viewport at the expanding cloud of debris that had once been the Vorta's nightmarish vessel. The price of their victory had been high, paid in the blood and sacrifice of brave men and women like Hawkins. The USS Prometheus limped back to Earth, its crew battered and forever changed by the horrors they had witnessed. Freeman walked numbly through the corridors of the ship, unable to shake the weight of his friend's death or the knowledge of how close they had come to losing everything. But even in the midst of their grief, Freeman knew that their fight was far from over. The Vorta's plan had been thwarted, but there would be other threats, other challenges to face in the defense of their world. As the USS Prometheus entered Earth's atmosphere, Freeman steeled himself for the long road ahead. He would honor Hawkins's sacrifice by dedicating his life to ensuring that humanity was never again caught off guard, never again forced to pay such a terrible price for its survival. In the weeks and months that followed, Freeman threw himself into his work with a single-minded determination. He oversaw the development of new weapons and defenses, drawing upon the knowledge they had gained from their encounter with the Vorta to better prepare for the challenges ahead. But even as the world celebrated their victory and hailed Freeman and his crew as heroes, he found little solace in their accolades. The memory of Hawkins' final moments haunted his dreams, a constant reminder of the terrible choices they had been forced to make in the face of annihilation. As Freeman stood on the bridge of a newly commissioned warship, staring out into the vast expanse of space, he knew that their battle was only beginning. The Vorta had been defeated, but there would be other threats, other enemies waiting in the darkness beyond the stars. And he would be ready for them, no matter the cost. For Freeman knew all too well that the price of failure was extinction, and he would do whatever it took to ensure that humanity never again stood on the brink of oblivion. The stars glittered coldly in the viewport, a silent challenge to the man who had sacrificed so much in defense of his world. Freeman's grip tightened on the railing, his eyes hardening with resolve as he prepared to face whatever lay ahead. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.